In this video, I'm going to look at an R script that reads in data that corresponds to the elements in the human body. And then we're going to make a bar graph of that, a bar chart, a bar plot, however you want to say it, and just control various elements in that, labels and so on. Okay, so I took the data from Wikipedia. I sort of copied this and made a CSV file out of it and posted that on my website. Okay, so first, reading in the data, just use a read CSV, and I have this, it's the data's at this web address. So run that, and then bringing in 11 observations of 4 variables that had the name of the element spelled out, then the symbol for the element, then the percentage by mass, that's what we're going to make the bar plot of, but also the percentage by the number of atoms. So those numbers change. Of course, hydrogen has a small mass, but there are lots of them, so that would go up if we went by number versus if we went by mass, but we're going to do by mass. Okay. These names, I don't like the names with the dots in them, so I'm just renaming them to make my life easier over here, but this is not really necessary, but I typically do it. So now I have sort of simpler names, and now I'm ready to make the bar plot. And first thing I want to do is some of these percentages are pretty small. Once we get down, 65% of it's oxygen, and then it goes down from there by phosphorus, by just a few things down, we're at 1%. So these are pretty small. So I want to make the thickness of the bar sort of have a sort of a thick border. So even if the bar doesn't have much to it, you'll sort of see it by the sort of thickness of the border around it. So that's what this line does. It sort of makes my bars thick. So running that, you're not going to see anything because I don't have any bars yet. But when I do have the bars, they'll be thick. Okay, and then let's start the bar plot. The first element of the bar plot are the actual quantities that you want to sort of represent, and this should be a number, of course. And so I'm going to work with the percent masses, the 65 to 18.5 going on down. Main is the overall title of the graph, sort of at the top. Y lim is the sort of the span in the data. So I'm going to go from 0 to 75. So the data goes up to 65. So this is going to span a little bit farther than that. This is the sort of, I'm going to call them labels at the bottom. They're calling them the names. And that is sort of at the bottom of the bar. And at the bottom of the bar, I want the symbol. So the name spelled out, that's going to take up too much space for me. I'm going to go with just the symbols. I'm going to fill the bars in different colors. I'm going to use this rainbow, and it's fairly saturated, so bright colors. And a rainbow wanted to know sort of how many. So it's going to sort of spread out the things on the whole rainbow. And so I wanted to know, it wants an argument of how many there are. And so I used length of LMs. So that's 11. So this is going to tell me that I want to spread the rainbow, the full spectrum of the rainbow out over 11 colors. This LAS2 is about the orientation of the writing. So I'm going to write these symbols sort of like vertically. So I could write them, if I don't do anything, they're written sort of horizontally, but if I want them sort of turn 90 degrees, I can do that, and that's what this does. Space is the gap between my bars, so I can control that. So I'm putting it as 0.1. That's going to be like a smaller gap than default gap. And LWD here, up here, it was the thickness of the bar. Down within the bar plot, it's the thickness of the y-axis. So I just wanted to put it in these two places. Maybe I should have made the number different so that you could see the overall different effect. Okay, so let's run this bar plot and see what we've got so far. So there's my rainbow colors, my bars, this one going up to 65. This here, my labels or names with this sort of vertical orientation. Okay. I want to sort of put the percentages at the top of the bar. So I'm going to do that with this text line. When I made the bar plot, I got it returns something, and it returns sort of a vector of positions, horizontal positions of the bars. And that's this BP. So you can see here it created this BP of 0.6, 1.7, 2.8. These are somehow the horizontal position of these bars. And then I'm going to add some text to my plot. I'm going to, for every X over here, I'm going to do something. I need to know where to put it vertically. So I'm going to make it sort of correspond to the height of the bar. So elms and percent mass. And then I added a 5 because I wanted it to be not overwriting the middle of the bar, but to be elevated a bit. So I added a 5. And then what did I want to add? I wanted to take the number, and then I wanted to add a percent sign, and I didn't want any space in between. So by default, the separator is a space, but I didn't want the space, so I had to add the sep equals quote quote to have no separator. And so there are my percentages. Let me make a little bit more room. I can probably control the font size if I wanted to, but all right. And then finally, I decided to add some horizontal lines. So I'm doing that with AB line. I'm setting just the sort of height of the line, which will make a horizontal line. And I want a vector. I want a vector of these lines. I want a set of these lines. They're going to go from 0 to 70 in steps of 10. And they're going to be 127, 127, 127, which is sort of a gray with a transparency and alpha of another 127, where my maximum color is 255. So this is sort of half the amount of red, green, and blue. But if they're all equal, it's a gray, sort of somewhat sort of half see-through. And then to make sense of this 127, I say what the maximum value is. So everything's based on 255 because I said so. And run that. And then there are my horizontal lines. And then that's what I wanted to show you. Just a basic bar graph and controlling some of the things. Control the colors if we want, control the gap, give us some labeling, both at the top of the bar with the values and below the bar with whatever it was that corresponds to the bar, some kind of word, some kind of name. That's it for this one. Thanks for your attention.